Good evening. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, delivering the latest White House news from the past 24 hours in partnership with Trump Daily Post. President Trump used today to project strength on two fronts at once, pressing forward with new Iraqi partnership at the White House while laying down a harder line on Iran and backing that with a public push to get Todd Blanche confirmed as Attorney General. He also pointed to falling inflation, previewed major voting machine news on Thursday night, and kept the focus on results. And according to the daily guidance from the White House, our president began Tuesday with executive time at 8 a.m. at the White House. I assume that's when they deliver him breakfast in bed. Anyway, the schedule then set up a 11 a.m. greeting for the Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi, an 11:15 bilateral meeting in the Oval Office, a 1:30 meeting, a 3:30 swearing-in ceremony with Senator Tim Sheehy, and a 4:30 pre-taped interview with Trey Yingst in the Roosevelt Room. And from today's pool report, the Prime Minister of Iraq arrived at the White House at 11:06 a.m., pulling up to the northern entrance of the West Wing, where President Trump greeted him in person. In brief comments to reporters, the president said, "We love Iraq," and welcomed the new prime minister after his election before the two men moved inside. Minutes later, while the press pool waited for Oval Office access, attention centered on President Trump's Strait of Hormuz message on Truth Social, and that issue soon became one of the day's major points in the president's press exchange. At 11:57 a.m., the press pool entered the Oval Office as the bilateral meeting coverage got underway. Once inside, President Trump opened with warm praise for al-Zaidi, calling him a great fighter and a great fan of America. He said their chemistry was so strong that an unplanned lunch would follow, and he hailed the Iraqi leader as young and handsome and a new champion. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Bessent, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Susie Wiles were seated in front of the president for the session. Then at 12:02 p.m., President Trump took questions and sharpened the administration's message on the Middle East and the economy. He said he dropped the idea of a 20% fee on the Strait of Hormuz after Gulf Arab leaders offered major investments in the United States, saying he preferred that outcome. He tied Iran's aggression to its own big mistake, praised cooperation with Iraq, highlighted lower inflation last month, and told Americans to remember it for the midterms, and confirmed that Thursday night's speech will carry really, really big news on voting machines, and described the recent NATO summit as a love fest. He also said that Senator Lindsey Graham's death was believed to be from natural causes tied to family heart history, rejecting conspiracy chatter. At 1:02 p.m., the White House called a lunch lid through 2 p.m. as the president's meetings continued behind closed doors. By 6:03 p.m., the press pool received a travel and photo lid, closing out the public schedule for the day. After the afternoon policy meeting, the swearing-in ceremony with Senator Tim Sheehy, and the pre-taped interview with Trey Yingst. In a White House press release, the administration also mounted a major confirmation push for Todd Blanche as Attorney General. The release stacked support from the Fraternal Order of Police, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the National Association of Police Organizations, sheriff's groups, the Federal Law Enforcement Association, and former Attorney General William Barr, all urging the Senate to move swiftly. Taken together, the past 24 hours show a White House pressing its advantage: active diplomacy, a firm security posture, a public case for law and order leadership at the Justice Department, and a president keeping the spotlight on investment, inflation relief, and election integrity. And that's the latest from the White House.